part of data warehousing, well, constructing a data warehouse, is the transformation process. After all, in the extract, transform, and load, ETL, transform is the biggest piece of that equation from the perspective of resources needed to get that accomplished and the amount of energy it takes to assemble a proper transformation. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I was to put together a transformation, the extract piece, I can say source data is here, and let's say destination data is here. And in the middle here is really where all of the intel is processing is done. Okay. I like to call it intel processing because, well, it requires some intelligence on part of the code to be able to get the correct task done. So if I said over here, if I indicated that the source data and the destination data, what is coming in and what is going out, will go through some kind of an intel, and in this case, a transformation process, all of the work is really going to be done in the source, in the transformation piece. So right over here, this would be the extract, this would be the load, and this right here would be the transform. So down here, let's say my data that I'm getting is going to be, I'm going to give the example of what I'm going to be doing. Let's say that my data contains, my source data contains a company name, contains an ID, and it contains a zip code. My destination data, let's say, needs an ID, a company name, a zip code, a city, and a state. How about that? So the transformation process needs to look up the zip code somewhere in some lookup from some source. Maybe it's a table, maybe it is a text file, wherever it's looking it up. And it needs to then attain city and state based on the zip code lookup. Okay. How many different ways can this be done? Well, this can be done a few different ways. One of the ways this can be accomplished is by using a lookup transformation inside of SSIS, inside of an integration services project in SSIS. The problem with this is it does exact matches only, which is fine in my case because zip code will be an exact lookup. If I specify a zip code of 90210, I need to get an exact lookup of 90210. Getting a partial lookup of 9021 is not good enough. However, I can have other lookups where I want partial matches or I want in-between matches. What if I'm looking up a range? I want to see that a rating associated with a given company is going to be good, fair, poor, or excellent based on a range of numbers or a range of ideas or a range of values. And I'll get to that in a little bit. So you can use lookup transformation. You can do it in SSIS. You can also do it in code. You can also do it. You can also do lookup transformation in a store procedure. Okay. This gives you a lot of flexibility. Sometimes you may not have an option but to do it this way. You may want to execute a store procedure in order to be able to get the task done. It is fast, and it works great. So I'm going to show you an example of a lookup transformation being done using a store procedure. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to go over to my database, and I'm going to say use ETL demo. That's the database, right? And then I'm going to say select star from customers. And here are my zip codes, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say create table zip codes, and I'm going to say ID. I'm going to say zip ID, ID. Zip ID is going to be an int. An identity column, it'll be a primary key. Zip code, varchar 10, not null. And then I'm going to say city, varchar 10, not null. State, code, varchar 10, I'm going to say char2, not null. Construct the table. Then I'm going to say insert into zip codes, and I'm going to put in the zip code. I'm going to put in the city, put in the state code. I'm going to put in values. 90210 is Beverly Hills, California. Okay. So here my state code is Bev Hills. How about that? Then I'm going to go into my second zip code, and I'm going to say that this is going to be 60611. Make this Chicago, Illinois. Run that, and then put in Michigan, East Lansing, Michigan is 48823. And then I have Texas, I have Houston, and that is 7768. Now when I do a select star from zip codes, zip two froms, let's try that. Okay, so now I have my zip codes, and I'm going to do a select star from customers. Okay. So there are my customers, and I don't have a valid value for Michigan. So let's put in one, not Michigan 4. I'm going to put in for Florida, put in Tampa, put in, there you go, select values there. There are 5 values in here. There are 5 customers. Okay, everything matches. Now I could do this. I could make sure that I have values in all of the zip codes. Now here's the thing. As far as this lookup is concerned, the other question that comes up is, why bother looking this up? Okay. Why bother looking it up? Why not just do a join between the source data and the destination data? Think about that. Why do a lookup at all? Why not just join the data between the source and the destination? Well, let's think about that for a minute. If I do a join, I'm going to save this. If I do a join between the source data and the destination data, so my source data is an SQL table called customers. Okay. And my lookup table, my lookup table is also an SQL table, in this case called zip codes. Right? And my destination data will also be SQL customers table that is modified, actually has a added column in it with a column modification. So the question here is, why do we need to modify or manipulate the customers table so that it can contain this particular column in it? Well, it's not going to contain zip codes in it. It's going to contain city and state. Okay, new column. So why have a city and state column inside of the customers table when I can do a join? Okay, I can join the source customers table with the zip code table and grab the city and state information. Why have destination data with that information at all? Remember, the idea behind, one of the ideas behind data warehousing is a data warehouse contains data that is denormalized, right? Data warehouse will contain information that is not normalized or denormalized, if you will. And what that means is that you are going to increase repetitiveness, repeat data, but you will reduce the number of hops needed to attain all of the data. In other words, in this particular instance, if I place the city and state right in the destination data, I no longer have to do a lookup in a separate table to gain access to the city and state information. The way things stand right now, the customers table has to go to the zip codes table and do a lookup in the zip codes table to find city and state. Doing a lookup in the zip codes table to find city and state means a customers table has to make a hop or do a hop onto the zip codes table, look up the city and state, and be able to attain that value. Right. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's take a look here. Go back to my structure. Right. So I've got customers table. So I can do this. I can say that I want to say select company, comma, city, comma, state code from customers and zip codes where customers dot zip code equals zip codes dot zip code. Okay. Let's see how well this works. Look at that. It gives it the name of the company, the city, and the state code. Right? So here, I had to do a hop. Okay, here, I had to do a hop, and in doing so, I ended up with the information that I needed. Now, if I could just get the company, city, and state code from one table, that would be ideal. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new table, create table. I'm going to say create table company full. I should really say customers full. And I'm going to say that this is going to contain, I'm going to say as select star from customers. Now what this is going to do is it's going to create a customers table that's going to contain the city and state. So I'm going to do ID int primary key identity, and then I'm going to say that it's going to contain company name, varchar 20, not null, and then I'm going to say that it's going to contain zip code, varchar 10, not null. I'm going to say city, varchar 10, not null, and I'm going to say state code, varchar 10, not null, and I'm going to run this, right? Then I'm going to say right here, if I take a look, if I say select star from customers full, there's nothing in there. Okay? And I select star from zip code. I notice zip codes. I notice that I've got zip codes in there, and customers has customer data in there. Okay? So there's my customers information, there's my zip codes information. I'm going to combine this so that all of this ends up inside of customers full. So how do I do that? Well, I can construct a store procedure for that task, and I can get the data using a store procedure. So I have everything in this particular instance to be able to insert inside of my table structure, inside of my customers full. What I want is I want customers full to contain the zip code, city, and state code all as part of the single table. So I'm going to create a store procedure. That's one way to do it. I'm going to create a store procedure. I'm going to say create procedure, and I'm going to say use the store procedure underscore dest customer. Okay, and I'm going to do an as in this particular instance, and I'm going to specify that this table is going to contain my all of the data that I want. Okay, this is going to contain all of the data that I want, and I'm going to say I'm going to declare company name. I'm going to declare company name as varchar 20. I'm going to declare zip code as varchar 10. I'm going to declare city as varchar 10. I'm going to declare state code as varchar 10. And then I'm going to create a cursor. Now a cursor, I'm going to do a declare cursor. I'm going to call it all data. I'm going to say cursor cust data. And the cursor is going to be a cursor for. Now what is a cursor, you ask? Let me explain what a cursor is. In my case, I need to iterate through, in my case, I'm going to do a join of this data right here. I'm going to join the customer's data, and I'm going to join the zip codes data. This way, what I have is, I have the company name. I'm going to have the company name from here. I'm going to have the company name from here, zip code from here, and I will have a state code from here and city from here. Now the thing is, and the combination of these two pieces of information right over here, as a result, I will have company name, zip code, city, state code. Okay, I'm going to have this as a result of having, this one and this one, these two combined, if you will. I'm going to do a join, and I'm going to grab and get a hold of this. Then what I need to do is, this is going to be this particular piece of information. This particular piece of information right here, this data, is going to be more than one row. So I will need to iterate through this data, won't I? So the iteration process within a store procedure, okay, within a store procedure can be done by using a cursor. Now what a cursor does is it will allow me to evaluate the results from a table one row at a time. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take this data Okay. What I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take this data right here. I'm going to take this data right here, and I'm going to turn it into this new table. I'm going to take this data right here, and I will take the cursor, which is going to be basically the result set of the join. Okay, cursor is going to be the result set from the join, okay, from these two tables, and I'm going to add it, and I'm going to turn it into this table right here. Okay. The result set from these two tables, I'm going to put it as this third table. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to go back over here. There's my definition of my cursor. Here are the 4 columns that I'm going to be getting, I'm going to be defining in here. So I'm going to do select company name. I'm going to do A dot company name, A dot zip code, B dot city, B dot state code from customers A, zip codes B, where A dot zip code equals B dot zip code. Okay. Then I'm going to open my cursor. Okay. Then I'm going to open my cursor. I'm going to open cursor, and I'm going to say fetch the next row from cursor cust data, and I'm going to fetch the next row into my company name variable, my zip code variable, my city variable, and my state code var. And I'm going to say while the fetch status, is 0, in other words, I still have data, I want you to insert into, I'm going to insert into the table that I have is called customers full. Insert into customers full, and I'm going to insert company name, comma, zip code, comma, city, comma, state code, values, company name, zip code, city, state code. Then, after I do this, I'm going to issue the fetch statement again so that it can get the next row in sequence, just like so. And I'm going to do an end statement. That's going to be the end of the fetch. In other words, there's no more data. No more data in the cursor. Okay. And then I'm going to do close cursor cust data. Okay. Now, when I do this, in this case, not only do I need to close the cursor, but I need to deallocate. I'm going to deallocate the cursor cust data. Okay. By doing so, I will have released all of the resources assigned to it. Okay, it says invalid column company name. I spelled something incorrectly. Let's take a look at what customers full looks like. Customers, companies, not company name, it's just company. All right, right here. Let's try that again. And there we go. So the cursor is created. Now, when I run this cursor, when I execute this cursor, or when I execute the store procedure, USP dest customers, I expect it to basically fill in the data into the customer's full table. Let's take a look. I'm going to do exec USP dest customers, just like so. Okay, it ran it. Now let's see what this looks like. Select star from customers full. Oh, look at that. I got the ID, the company name, the state code, the city, and the zip code. Everything in one place. So because of this, I no longer have to join the data between the two tables. Right? So what if there is a zip code that I don't find a value for? What do I do about that? I have to somehow put that in an exception area, or note that I've got columns or fields or data that I couldn't find. So I have to place that in an exception area. So this very simple cursor allows me to iterate through the data. So let me explain this. Here I am creating the store procedure right here. So create procedure is the clause that I need to specify to create the store procedure. This right here is the name of the store procedure, user store procedure underscore dest customers, just destination customers. And I'm doing it as, and then I'm doing a declare. I'm declaring a bunch of variables here. In my particular case, I'm looking at assigning a company name, a zip code, a city, and a state code. Okay? These are the 4 elements that I need. Then I'm creating a cursor. I'm calling the cursor cur cus data. And I'm telling it that this is going to be a cursor. It's not just a var, it's going to be a cursor for, that's a clause or keyword, and then I specify what my cursor is going to be. I'm going to say that my cursor is really going to be this select statement right here. Now what this does is it takes the select statement and places it inside of the cur cus data cursor. It places it ready for me to process. Now, after that, I'm going to open the cursor. Once I have created the cursor, I have to open it. Open means it's going to run this select statement and go to the first row for me. It opens it, and then when I do a fetch next, it goes to the first row. And when I do a fetch next from cur cus data right here, it does a fetch next from cur cus data, the cursor right here. And it will fetch into the company name. Notice how this thing is in order. Company name is the first piece of data that's coming back, and that order matters. The company here, the variable here that this cursor is setting the data into has to match. The order has to match what is being retrieved here. So company, and then there's zip code, which is what's coming in next. And then there's city, and then there is the state code, right? So state code right here, city is right here, right? Zip code is right here, and then the company and company name is right here. Yes, the variable and the data doesn't have to match. As long as the data is coming in the same order, it's perfectly fine. So I do a fetch next, so it goes to the first row. And then I say, while the fetch status equals 0. In other words, something is inside of this, something has been fetched. That the data that is contained inside of the select statement hasn't ended. There's still something in there. So I fetch the data, and then I say insert into the customer's full table. I want to insert company names, zip code, city, and state code. And the values are the vars, the variables that I have just filled in. When I do fetch next cus data into this, it fills up these vars with the data that's coming in. Okay. So then, after this data is filled in, I go to the next row in sequence. When I do a fetch next, it goes to the next row in the cursor, and it keeps on doing that until there's no more data left. If I did not do this fetch next, I would be in what is known as an infinite loop. It would keep going back and forth, and it would be inserting, endlessly inserting, the same set of company name, zip code, city, and state code inside of the cursor, inside of the table customers full, over and over again, because it would never reach the end of the fetch. So it's very important to have this fetch next in here. Once it has ended, you have to close the cursor out. Here we open the cursor. So you have to close the cursor out, and then you have to deallocate the cursor from memory. And you have to deallocate the cursor from memory. So once you deallocate the cursor from memory, all of the resources are released. And in this particular instance, I've got my data already full. Now, what's going to happen if I run this again the way this stands? Well, let me show you. If I run this again, it completes the rows, and now I've got, take a look. Now I've got, look at this. I've got twice as many rows with the same exact piece of data. You see it? So one of the other things that I need to do is, inside of my cursor, I need to truncate the table. Okay? So right over here, I need to do truncate table customers full. Right over there. Okay? I need to truncate the table before I do this. So here I'm going to do this. I'm going to say drop procedure USP destination customers. And then I'm going to create the procedure again with the truncating of the table. Now what's going to happen is, no matter how many times I run the store procedure, I run it once, and I do a select, I have exactly 5 rows. If I run it again, I have exactly 5 rows. Okay, so the cursor overwrites the data instead of appending to the data. So that's also something that I need to make sure that I have when I'm filling the destination table. Do I want to append to it, or do I want to overwrite it? That's also a decision you need to make. You may need to append to it if you remember where you were before you started working with the table. There are times, of course, when you need to add to the table structure. Many times in a data warehouse, you're putting the data warehouse together from scratch. Other times, the data warehouse is an incremental data warehouse where you are adding to the data warehouse, or you're adding to the table structure as time progresses to keep from the time that it takes to build a data warehouse from scratch. Let me share something else with you over here. So one of the items over here is taking the customer data and populating it with the city and state code. Let me truncate this table. I'm going to do a truncate table, and I'm going to truncate customers full over here. Okay. And I'm going to go over to my Visual Studio here, and I'm going to create a new project, and it's going to be an integration services project. And in here, I'm going to do lookup transform, lookup example. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trash my customers table, my customers full table. So I'm going to do OLEDB connection over here in connection manager. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to select new, and I'm going to select the local server, and I'm going to select the ETL demo over here. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to label this ETL demo like so. And then in my execute SQL task, this is going to be clear the customers table. Okay, and this is going to be my using my connection ETL demo, and this is going to be truncate table, DBO, customers full. And I don't want to prepare the query. I'm going to click OK. Once I have cleared the table in my data flow task, I need to construct a lookup. So I'm going to have a source assistant. Where's the source coming from? Well, the source is going to be an SQL Server table, and my source will be the customers table right here. So there are my columns right there. All right? And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to call this customers table source. Then I'm going to do a lookup from the customers table. My lookup, so I'm going to do my connections, and I'm going to specify that I'm going to do a lookup from the zip codes table. Okay, look at the connections. Go to columns. All right. I'm going to look up zip code right here. Okay, so my lookup column is going to be zip code. Zip code over here. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. All right. So I'm looking up zip code, and I'm going to go to the destination over here, and my destination is going to be, I'm going to go over here, and my destination is going to be the lookup matches. Click OK. My destination is going to be the customers full table. My mapping will be my input column is going to be customer. No, I don't want the customer ID over here. My input column is going to be company. It's going to be his zip code. Is going to be, in this case, my ID, company, and the customer ID. Let's see. I need to grab some more things here. I'm going to go to columns. I want the city, and I want the state code. And I'm going to click OK. Go over to the destination, and I'm going to say that I want to, my destination is going to be customers full. Go over to mappings, and I'm going to say I've got city and state code, and I've got the zip code as is coming in, and I've got the company as is coming in. Okay. The ID column is just going to be filled in. So I've got company name, zip code, city, and state. Okay, those are my mappings. I'm going to ignore my input column because I don't want, can use customer ID. Okay. I'm going to have my destination column ID that's going to be populating itself. Okay. And I'm going to click OK. Okay, now it's saying I'm going to keep identity. My error output. Yeah, it's going to be fine. Click OK. So this is telling me that truncation may occur, column, zip code, length of, and that's perfectly fine with me. I'm going to save this. So I'm coming in from the customers table source. I'm doing a lookup of the zip code column, and then my destination is going to be the customers full data. So I'm going to say load customers full data load. Save this. Control flow. And I'm going to do right over here. This is going to be load customers full data. Customers full data right over here. Right there. Go to the customers. Okay, so here I'm going to clear the customers table, and then I'm loading it. Okay, and this is telling me that zip code is really going to be length of 50 and it may truncate. It doesn't know that. When I run this, see what happens here. Okay, it gave me an error. Okay, if I go over to the design view, go over to the output, I can see what the problem was. All right, and it said that it had a bit of a failure in looking things up. Right, and this is really one way to accomplish the lookup. In my case, I'm doing a connection and I'm doing a lookup in zip codes. Okay, I'm looking at columns and I'm grabbing the zip code, city, and state column, and I'm looking it up based on zip code right over here. Okay, I'm looking it up based on the zip code, right? And based on the zip code, I am looking up. If I trash this line, I'm going to look up zip code. Right? So I'm looking up the zip code on either end. And here, I can choose to say replace a column, but I'm not going to. Okay. I can also choose to say I want to add this as a column. Right? I can uncheck city and state code if I want. Okay. Input columns, zip code is the only thing that's coming in. And I can supply it with the city and the state code that I want to update. Right? So I can do this task inside of an SSIS package. I can also do it using a stored procedure. You have to determine using a few things that we're going to talk about which side and which option works best for you.